Hey everybody, welcome to the next installment of Journey Through John, and thank you so much for so many of you who have been joining me on this journey. What I've been telling you is that I've just been kind of diving into reading the scripture, thinking about it a little bit and meditating on it, and then just taking it little bite-sized chunks and talking through it. There's not deep theology here. It's just daily application for us to start walking through it and hopefully develop a time of in the Word in our own lives as we go through this difficult time of quarantine. Today we're going to be wrapping up John chapter 7 as we go through verses 40 through 52. Jesus has been speaking, and he just talked to them about how there's this river of life that pours out. That comes from him. He's talking about the Spirit. That's a prophecy. And so, having said that, now we're seeing the rebuttal, the response from all that. And so verse 40 says this. It says, when they heard these words, the people heard these words, some of the people said, this really is the prophet. Others said, this is the Christ. But some said, is the Christ to come from Galilee? I mean, has the scripture not said that the Christ would come from the offspring of David, which he did, and comes from Bethlehem, which he did, the village where David was? So there was division among the people over him. Some of them wanted to arrest him, but no one laid hands on him. And as we found out earlier in the chapter, that's because it wasn't the timing or the plan of the Father. But the few things to point out here is they knew him as Jesus from Galilee, which he was. But he was also, if you remember the Christmas story, which if you haven't, this is how it goes, that Jesus was born in a little place called Bethlehem. And it was a place that David had been. And he's also an offspring of David. And if you look at the early part of the Gospel of Matthew, you'll see the lineage of Jesus and how he is from the line of David. So he fulfilled all these prophecies, but they didn't have the information right there. And because they wanted to attack Jesus, they weren't exactly interviewing him. They were more accusatory without actually asking him anything. And he had to escape from that. So no one laid hands on him in that way. But let's continue on, verse 45. The officers then came to the chief priests and Pharisees, who said to them, why did you not bring him? And the officers answered, I love this answer, because it wasn't that we couldn't find him. It wasn't that they looked for him and just said, we decided not to. They said this, no one ever spoke like this man. He spoke, and we just couldn't grab him. Verse 46, no one ever spoke like this man. Verse 47, the Pharisees answered them, have you been deceived? Have you also been deceived? Have any of the authorities of the Pharisees believed in him? But this crowd that does not know the law is accursed. Man, they're going after the crowd. They're not looking for this in hope that maybe this is right. They're attacking the crowd and saying these ignorant fools don't get this. And we sent these officers, and they've been completely talked out of it as well. Verse 50, then there's this guy named Nicodemus, and we'll be talking about him more in the future. But Nicodemus, who had gone to him before, which we may have talked about it before, you may remember, and who was one of them, said to them, does our law judge a man without first giving him a hearing and learning what he does? I love that. Nicodemus is bringing this rationale into it, and you guys are angry, you're making an emotional decision, you're frustrated, you're angry, and you're just wanting this thing to end because this guy is taking your power, and he's just causing trouble, and you just want this thing to end, but isn't he innocent until proven guilty, so to speak? And this is the response. They replied, are you from Galilee too? Search and see that no prophet arises from Galilee. And once again, Jesus, he's from Galilee, but he's also from Bethlehem. That's where he was born. He's fulfilled all these prophecies. He's prophesying now, and his prophecies are in line with what was prophesied before as well. And he's just knocking this thing out of the park left and right, proving that he is exactly who he says he is. He's doing signs, but all the signs point to the Father. He's not doing too many signs for the show. He's not taking credit. He's giving credit to others. He's just backing up what John the Baptist said about him earlier. On and on we go as we have been journeying through John. Hopefully you're starting to see some of these pieces where Jesus is just continually knocking this thing out of the park. That's what John's pointing out. And once again, the thread through John is we missed it. We dropped the ball here. We didn't figure this out. And Jesus is just laying it down so plainly. And these Pharisees, they don't want to accept that maybe he is the one. Let's consider it. Let's look at this and what he's calling himself, and let's do that. But let's also look at the Old Testament and see maybe he is fulfilling prophecy. They don't want that. Have you ever been so? You might have even heard the phrase, "You cut off your nose to spite your face." I think that's what we see here. A lot of times these people are they're missing because they don't want things disrupted, and we're in this time where things are so disrupted. And how angry are we? I'll tell you, when the announcement came out that we were going to lose some more time in May, I was frustrated. I was frustrated when it shut things down initially, and I had to go through this irritating. I was just irritated, you know. And I even kind of went back and forth with God, like, can't we just get this thing back to normal? But I even said a few days ago, maybe we're disrupted for a reason. These people were disrupted for a reason, and I think maybe God's disrupting us for a reason, but for what? So maybe that's a challenge. God, please don't make me so focused on the way I do things that I'm not open to what you want to do. And God, if you're disrupting me, let me not miss what you're disrupting me for, but let me have my eyes wide open. And Spirit, please speak to me. The very Spirit that Jesus sent, speak to me, that I may be open to whatever it is and learn and move forward. I pray that challenges you, and I pray that you continue on with me as we've been continuing this journey. So I'll see you tomorrow as we continue to journey through John.